Hey everybody, it's me Zach, and this is Potato, and welcome back to our channel. Hey everybody, so I just wanted to take some time today to talk about a video, or a couple videos that were put out by Mr. Snowflake, who's a content creator here on YouTube. I do have some notes because I wanted to give a thoughtful response to this and not stumble over my words and also not say something on accident. Although I imagine that it's still possible for me to say something and have it taken the wrong way or not communicated clearly enough, and so please exercise patience and understanding as I go through this video. I also really don't know why my voice is hoarse right now. I just haven't talked yet today. This is the first time I'm talking out loud to anybody, so maybe that's it. I'm not sure. I feel fine. So anyways, Mr. Snowflake is a content creator here on YouTube who makes video essays, that's what I would call them at least, about a variety of YouTubers, including but not limited to Amberlynn Reed. I think he also has some about Foodie Beauty and some other folks that I've not heard of before. A lot of people in this corner of the internet really enjoy his coverage of Amberlynn because it covers her history typically on YouTube. It covers like stuff that's not happening in real time. And so I think a lot of people are drawn to it because they learn a lot about Amberlynn that you wouldn't learn from just watching her most recent videos. Also, I know a lot of you do know who Mr. Snowflake is, but when I posted on my community tab, there were a number of people that were like, I don't even know who Mr. Snowflake is, so I just wanted to give some background in case people are not familiar. Anyways, because he's covered a lot of like her history on YouTube, it's led to a lot of the people who enjoy his videos going in and talking to Amberlynn and her Q&As and asking about very specific things that he has covered in those series. So a good example of that is like he extensively talked in some of his videos about the cat named Gracie that Destiny and Amberlynn had together that got let out. He also talks about different times that she's talked about SA and DV and things like that, and that has been brought up in recent history as well in Q&As and stuff like that because people are following up on things that he said in his own videos. So if you've heard Amberlynn in the past refer to him, that might be why as well. Just this past week, I think it was December 20th, he started a new series on his channel called Victims of an Empath, and the first episode covered Amberlynn's relationship with Casey, including Amberlynn's allegations at the time that Casey assaulted her. After that video came out, Mr. Snowflake started talking about how Casey was going to do an interview with him and that he would post the video as soon as he could, and then Mr. Snowflake posted the interview with Casey on December 24th of 2023. So that brings me to then the community tab post I made last night. As you probably saw yesterday, or maybe you didn't see it, honestly, truly. But yesterday I posted a video. It was just a silly video that I filmed while I was driving to go see my mom. And it was just a silly video that I made because Amberlynn had talked about how I didn't drive and she didn't think it was fair that people gave her a hard time for not driving. So because I posted that video, I think there were a number of people who, I think somewhat fairly, maybe a little unfairly, asked why I hadn't posted about Mr. Snowflake's content yet, but also fairly because obviously it's a very serious thing. I know a lot of people who are invested in this corner of the internet, care a lot about it, and I think rightfully so. It's important to be discussed. But I did just want to make a community tab post because I was getting comments on that video, and I figured if I just put it in one central place, hopefully people would see it and they would know that like, hey, I am working on this, it's coming, and that would be enough. Unfortunately, I think perhaps potentially in the future, I may just need to come straight to like a video where you can hear the tone of my voice and what I'm saying, because I think things were lost in translation. I was not trying to be adversarial in that post. I was not trying to make excuses. I was literally just like trying to let people know that I would be coming out with some kind of comment or statement about Mr. Snowflake's content as soon as I had time to actually watch it, which was really important to me. So I'll just read you the post really quick so that you have the full context, and then I'll talk about, I think, the paragraph in particular that I think was maybe not clear enough or misunderstood, and hopefully I can provide some clarity on that. So I said, some people have asked why I haven't talked about the Snowflake interview and instead posted a silly car vlog today. I filmed that car vlog on the same day that Mr. Snowflake interview dropped. It was the only YouTube-related thing I did while visiting my family. I don't see my family often and was enjoying my time outside of filming for that 20 minutes while I drove into town to spend the day with my mom. Mr. Snowflake's interview was nearly 2 hours long, and the video before that was about an hour and a half long. My day today has consisted of driving 4.5 hours home, a 2-hour nap, editing and uploading that video, and then streaming for 2 hours on Twitch. I unfortunately just have not had the time necessary to give to content that is heavy and serious. I also have a medical appointment tomorrow afternoon, which will also limit my time, which is true. I'm gonna leave to go do that after I film this video. So I appreciate the patience from everybody. And then this is the part that I think was maybe confusing for people, or people mistook what I said, or I just, me taking accountability, I just didn't communicate effectively. And I said, I will say preemptively, I've historically, specifically not said a lot about Amberlynn'S relationship with Casey, and also have historically tried to limit conversations regarding DV, SA, etc. Specifically why I stopped covering Chantal while she was with Nodder. I do think it's important to talk about, but I think Casey's story is enough on his own without extensive commentary for me. I will ultimately watch everything and Amberlynn'S newest video that she posted tonight and try to formulate my thoughts, so please continue to be patient with me. I appreciate it, and thank you. And that's what I did. I took time to watch everything. I watched Amberlynn'S video, and I'm hopefully here to provide my thoughts and share with you how I feel about the situation. So like I said, that last paragraph, I think not super clear, or maybe misleading or misunderstanding. That's not the word I'm looking for, but you understand what I'm trying to say. My intention was always going to be to address that the interview existed and to direct people to go listen to Casey's story. I even discussed that at the end of my Twitch stream yesterday. I was talking about it with people in my stream who were also, I think, kind of wondering about that. Even then, like, that was my intention, but I still think it's important before you come out and talk about something like this, or really most things, honestly, right? Like, we should honestly be watching things before we comment on them in general. And so I wanted to make sure I had all of that information, and I just simply hadn't had the time yet to watch those things because the interview specifically was posted while I was visiting my mom. I will say it is true that I don't specifically historically talk about these subjects a lot. I think the emphasis was supposed to be on a lot and not that I don't ever talk about them, because I certainly have talked about them in the past. Specifically with that example I gave about Chantal, is like, I started off talking about it and then I said, this is too much for me and I don't feel comfortable talking about it anymore outside of what I've already said about it. And when I first started covering Amberlynn years ago, I did have some discussions about what happened with Casey, because I specifically remember I also was like upset with Amberlynn for continuing to misgender Casey, use Casey's dead name, use the wrong pronouns for Casey. So there were conversations that were had back, 6-7 years ago, whenever I first started talking about Amberlynn on YouTube. And in more recent history, I have discussed when things have come up with Destiny and Beck as well. And in fact, it's because of how I discuss things regarding the things that Destiny talked about that I have been even more cautious about the way that I talk about these subjects, because when Destiny shared the Code Red story with her audience about how Amberlynn threw a code red at her, I can't remember exactly how I worded it now. I could probably go find the clip and share it with you, but I said something along the lines of like, oh gosh, I really can't remember the exact words, but I had said something essentially that led to people interpreting that I was saying that I didn't believe that Amberlynn would do that. But what I was really trying to say is that I do believe Destiny when she says that Amberlynn did that. And so I've thought about that ever since, because I felt so horrible. So many people were very disappointed in me, and rightfully so, because I didn't use my words carefully and it was interpreted incorrectly because of how I communicated. And so especially since then, I've tried to be so thoughtful when it comes to those situations, because these conversations and topics don't only just, like, I think first and foremost do impact the people involved, like Destiny and Beck and Casey. But then after that, there's so many people in the audience of Amberlynn'S and my audience and Mr. Snowflake's audience who have all experienced versions of that themselves, right? And so they feel hurt by those things, and that's why I want to take time to put care into the way that I talk about them, if I talk about them at all. So just because I say I don't talk about those things a lot doesn't mean that people shouldn't talk about those things. And when I say specifically for myself that I don't like to talk about them a lot, it's because I don't feel like I'm the best person equipped to do that job. I don't know that I'm an expert in a lot of things, but I'm certainly not an expert in those areas. And I think they're very serious and should be covered by people who have the capacity to have those conversations. So it's not to say that others can't have those conversations, because I think they can and they should have those conversations. In fact, I think Mr. Snowflake did a good job of having that conversation on his channel. He did a good job of addressing the situation to the extent that Casey felt comfortable coming to him and having an interview with him to discuss his experiences. I truly don't think something like that would happen if it wasn't for an environment that was created by Mr. Snowflake to allow for that conversation to happen. So please do keep talking about these subjects. I think that just because I don't want to talk about them extensively on my channel doesn't mean that we shouldn't be talking about them. I have to also, like, create some level of boundaries for myself and what I'm comfortable talking about and the extent that I am. And I know that can sometimes be hard to understand when there are such important things at stake. But I just hope that you can understand where I'm coming from on that. I can't imagine what it's like to be Casey or be in Casey's shoes and come forward again and share his experience about what happened when he was in a relationship with Amberlynn. It's a lot to publicly share that kind of trauma, especially on such a huge platform like Mr. Snowflake's channel. So I do want to say that I commend him for sharing his story. I think it's an important story to share. And I also want to say that I encourage you all to still go listen to that story on Mr. Snowflake's channel. I think you'll get a lot more from his story than me just sitting over here and summarizing the things that he said. I think you'll get a lot more from hearing it straight from him, and I think it's important that you hear it from him and not me, somebody who doesn't even really know Casey outside of, like, what I've seen about him on the internet. I will say, like, make sure you're in a good place to be able to hear and listen to conversations about DV and SA. I think that is something that certainly comes up throughout both of Mr. Snowflake's videos, and so just make sure that you are in a place mentally that you're able to listen to those conversations. I should also mention a specific content warning about CP and also about stories about unaliving yourself, because those also happened and I did not include that there, and I think that would be helpful to know going into it. Outside of that, I don't think I have any additional commentary that would add anything of value to what he's already shared of his own experience. And so again, if you want to hear his experience, I would encourage you to just go listen to the interview yourself. I also just want to be clear that there is a significant pattern now when it comes to the people that Amberlynn has been in a relationship with in the past, and it's not a good pattern. It's clear that Amberlynn does not treat people well based on the experiences that have been shared by Destiny, by Beck, and also by Casey. I know that there were some people concerned that I wouldn't condemn Amberlynn for her actions, or that I had to protect my cash cow, or this, that, the other. That was like, there were a small handful of comments about protecting my cash cow. And I just need to be clear, I don't have any desire to protect Amberlynn. Amberlynn has been making a fool of herself on the internet for long enough now and has exposed herself many times in the way that she treats other people outside of just the stories of the exes that have come forward. And so I don't know necessarily that, I need to protect her. She needs to worry about protecting herself. But just to be clear, I have no desire to protect Amberlynn when it comes to the way that she has treated her exes. I think that the stories say what they need to say, and it's really sad and disgusting that Amberlynn continues to engage in that behavior with her exes. And with that being said, she did just post a new video last night, and part of the video title, or at least the beginning of the video title, was "The Interview with My Ex, ... And that was the main title, and then it also has a thing about a weight loss update, this, that, the other. But I think it's important that she titled it that, and important then to dissect what the rest of the video is about, because honestly the video is tone deaf at best. It is not very thoughtful, especially if you're going to title a video like that. You would think that her first thought would be, let me start the video out immediately and address what everybody's been talking about, because she does later acknowledge in the video that it's like the elephant in the room.
So there is obviously an elephant in the room. Not a pun. The interview that my ex did.
All right, so she's aware by posting this. She knows it's what people's talking about. But instead, she chooses to start the video with like 2 minutes of her just trying to decide what she's going to wear to some alleged Christmas party she's going to. And then what's wild to me is that she inserts a slide that's like a few days later, and then that's when she finally talks about the interview with Casey. And so my thoughts are just like, why even include the 2 minutes of you trying to decide what to wear to this Christmas party at all, when you know you're gonna, like, you're editing this all together, and you know that a big part of this video is gonna be you talking about that interview. Something that was very serious, with like major accusations towards Amberlynn, and she's like, let me just goof around and show you 2 minutes of me playing dress up in my closet. There was actually a little bit more content out of that, but I would say about 4.5 minutes into the video, she finally gets into talking about the interview with Casey, and it's just all, I don't know. I mean, I guess I understand maybe what she was trying to do, but not really. I don't really understand why she thought that this was going to be a good approach, why she thought that this was going to be something that would garner any kind of like positive reaction. I haven't looked at the comments on the video, but I imagine they're not great, okay? I just don't understand what she thought she was doing here. So she talks at the beginning about how it can be so healing to share your side of the story.
Everyone deserves the opportunity to voice their side of the story. No one deserves to feel silenced. I feel like having the opportunity to share your side of the story and your perspective of a situation that happened is sometimes honestly really good for the soul. I know from firsthand that sometimes talking about things feels like a really big weight is lifted off of your shoulders and your heart, and sometimes it's healing for some people.
Which I think is interesting, because that implies that, you know, Casey has something to be healed from, like that Casey needs healing. Which is interesting because, you know, every time I mean, even in that the first video that Mr. Snowflake posted, Amber has always posited herself as being the victim, and Casey being at fault for everything. She's never even alluded to having any kind of like accountability in the situation for any of the things she did. And she goes on in this video she posted yesterday to say that watching the interview made her realize how much she's grown up, and that she is actually at fault for a lot of the things she did when she was younger.
So that relationship happened when we were both teenagers. We were very, very, very young. And I think watching that interview made me realize more than ever how much I have grown up. I'm at fault for so many things I've done when I was younger. I've done just a few years ago. I have made mistakes. I have learned along the way.
And that's then when I'm like, you know, I already had my thought in the mind about Casey being able to heal from telling his story, and now we're at this part where she's kind of alluding to an idea of like maybe she was at fault for some of the things she did when she was younger. So it kind of seemed like she was trying to say that she treated Casey poorly and that some of the things that Casey might have been talking about were true, but then she doesn't actually admit to any of that. Like, later on in the video, she talks about how, like, she's not really going to talk about any details of what happened and this, that, the other. And so I'm just like, this is why this is a bad look. This is why it's a bad look, because if you came on here and wanted to talk about this situation and you really are alluding to this idea that you might be at fault, then say that. You know, like, there's still certainly going to be people upset with her, but I think it would have paid off so much better for her, would have looked so much better for her if she would have said, here are the things that I did and I take ownership of. And for a lot of people, that's not going to be enough, and there's probably going to be a lot of people that are like, wow, you did that and you're admitting to it, that's fucked up, I'm leaving. And that's honestly probably what the right thing to do would be. That's probably what the right thing to do would be. We can talk later about, like, PR-wise, what might have been the best thing for her to do, but the right thing for her to do would probably just be to be honest about the fault that she played in it, especially because she's sitting over here alluding to doing something. She also emphasizes at a lot of different points in this little 4 minutes of her talking about it. She does emphasize a lot that she was young when it happened, but then also says, like, being young isn't an excuse.
But using, like, young, I was younger as an excuse, it doesn't justify, it doesn't make things okay. Like, no matter what side of the story that the audience wants to believe, regardless of anything else, it doesn't make anything that happened and that relationship okay.
And she claims we won't see her sitting here talking about Casey and saying what she thinks Casey lied about and this, that, the other.
I know a lot of people are asking me about it, and I'm simply not going to talk about it. Like, one thing you're not going to catch me doing is sitting here saying, well, he lied about this, this is actually what happened. It's not going to happen here. I care more about moving on, letting go. I'm not going to say this has been easy for me, by no means. I have shed some tears, but there's power in knowing that him and I are adults now, and we get to choose which route we take. And this is the one that I'm choosing to take, and I'm actually really happy with that. And I just wish him nothing but happiness and wellness.
And I will say, she literally just did that. She literally just did that this past summer, which makes me wonder what the difference is. Is that growth and learning from this summer in terms of, like, it didn't work out for her when she did it with Destiny? Is it that she felt like, because the one thing that I'm kind of thinking about is that she felt like with Destiny, she was holding on to something over Destiny that she could use against Destiny, which was the thing about Destiny's dog, and that Destiny and Dana, like, put the dog down with a gun or something, or Dana's stepdad did, or you know the story if you were there this summer. And so I'm like, maybe that's why she was fighting back with Destiny, because she knew she had this thing over Destiny and she doesn't have anything like that over Casey. I don't know what her sudden change of, like, I'm not gonna address the stuff with Casey, but I sure as fuck did address every single thing that Destiny had to say to me or about me down to the T. Okay, so I don't really understand what the difference is. I'd like to think that maybe she's learned from that, but I think if she had truly learned from the Destiny situation, she would have probably just said nothing. She does at one point wish Casey nothing but happiness and wellness, which I don't know. I feel like that's just something she's saying, because, like, I don't know how she could say all of that. You know, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And she also, and I think this is important to discuss too, because this is also just like a piss poor response. She also talks about how there's lots of toxicity between both sides.
A lot happened in that relationship for two teenagers who were literally in an adult relationship. And that is what he said in the interview, and it hit me like a train. I was like, that is so true. We were both put in an adult relationship way too young. There was a lot of toxicity from both ends, and I just hope that he's okay. I want to be okay as well.
And one thing, like I already said, like, whenever she was first talking about this on YouTube back in the day, a lot of it seemed that like Casey, according to her, was at fault for everything. She didn't take any kind of accountability then. So now it's weird to me that she's saying, oh, well, you know, both sides. Both sides are bad. Both sides did bad things. Which is just weird to me because the things that Casey addressed in that interview were really serious for the most part. Like, they were very serious things. And so for her to just be like, I'm not gonna talk about it specifically, like who did what and this, that, the other, but both sides are bad with like no additional information, when in fact, like, you know, at different points, even when Casey first came on to YouTube the first time all those years ago to address what Amberlynn had said about him, he even said then, like, you know, like, if I ever did touch Amberlynn, it was like in self-defense. Like, if I ever did physically like touch her, it was in self-defense. And so it's like weird to me now that Amberlynn's like, well, it's both sides. Well, not necessarily. I mean, it's hard to say what you're saying, like what the both sides are, especially if the both sides was potentially just Casey defending himself. But yeah, about 7 minutes into the vlog is when she wraps up the conversation about Casey, and that means that in total, she spent all of 4 minutes talking about this subject when Casey did a nearly 2-hour video interview with Mr. Snowflake about it. It's just honestly wild. I'm curious if she really will continue to not say anything else about it after this. I kind of, going off of the situation with Destiny this past summer, I kind of find it hard to believe that she will stay quiet about it, especially now that she brought it up on her own channel. I mean, the reality is that there are probably people who watch her channel who weren't aware of the Mr. Snowflake interview, just like there were people on my channel who were not aware of the Mr. Snowflake interview. And I imagine that this is just going to drive more people to go look at it, and then more people to have questions for her, you know? And I imagine once people put more pressure on her because they watched the interview, that she's going to start feeling the heat and feel like she has to respond. That would be my prediction. The rest of the vlog that she posted is just goofy in the context of the serious conversation. She does attempt to shift the conversation to her weight loss, which, you know, she hasn't at this point talked about in a minute on her channel, so convenient for her to do that now. And she even tries to bring up the old drama with her little Barbie tank top from Torrid and revisits drama that probably nobody has talked about in forever, about how people used to think that she got the wrong size or like ordered a bigger size or this, that, the other to make it look like she had lost weight. Oh, and she struggles to put a mop together at the end. That's what you missed, okay? While she was trying to not have this time given to this interview that she ultimately gave time to anyways. I mentioned earlier that, like, PR-wise, I think maybe the best thing that she could have done is to probably just not address it. I mean, especially if she was going to come on here and do this, like, I think her options were either come on and admit to the things that she did specifically, or to come on and just not acknowledge it at all. I mean, obviously, there's the right thing to do, which would be to take accountability, as she wants to talk about all this growth that she's experienced, all this stuff that she's done to be a better person over time. I think then the right thing to do, if you've really grown as a person, would be to take accountability for something, especially when you're on here saying that both sides were toxic, that both sides were doing that. Well, then tell me what your side was. Tell me what side of you was toxic, you know? I think that would have been the right thing to do. But from a PR perspective, she probably would have been better off just not acknowledging it for a lot of the things I've already said, you know? Like, she's putting more attention on it, and surely more people are going to be asking her about it than maybe what was going on before. So, that's my thoughts on the whole situation. I hope that you take time to listen to everything I had to say. I do think these topics are very important, so I hope that you will take them as seriously as I do, and take time to also listen directly to Casey. I'll make sure to leave Mr. Snowflake's both of his videos about Casey linked in the description box down below if you want to go check those out. That's all I have time for today. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much for being here, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Leave me a comment, hit like, click share, and follow me on all my social media. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!